Hello YouTube, welcome to my new abode. Glad to be making another guide video today for you. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments what you think, what I could do to improve my future videos, anything like that. Without further ado, let's get into it. So this is a video that I've been wanting to make for a while. I think that I've played a lot of attackers that can make good use. That's given me a lot of good experience to talk about this sort of stuff. So I've sort of classed the items, as you can see, into three categories: offense, defense, utility. The items I excluded from my listing are basically those that I don't think should ever be run on attackers, and like mega stones and stuff like that. Mainly the stuff like this around scoring or like buddy barriers, stuff like that, because A, most attackers have no good HP, and two, attackers don't want to score because of one, attackers have no good HP. You don't believe me? Let's check this out, right? Wow, look at all these guys with crap HP at level 13. Not like, there's 3 that have more than 6,000 HP at 13. Attackers are across the board really, really fragile. So trust me when I say, you don't want to be scoring as an attacker. If I could give any tip for aspiring attacker players out there, don't try to score until the entire enemy team is dead. I'm serious. That's like the only time you should be scoring, because otherwise they're just going to come and kill you. You have no HP, and you can't escape 9 times out of 10. But that's for your battle items to solve, and your held items to an extent too. So let's get into the held items. Obviously, as an attacker, your most important role in team fights is going to be dealing damage. So most of the items we want to focus on are in the offense section. So we'll spend the majority of time there looking at items, and I'll be going back and forth between this image and Unite API to read item descriptions and stuff like that. But also some defense items to consider and utility items. But let's get into it. So, one second, some water. Okay. I think for offense items, there's 6 items that I would consider core. In that, if you're playing an attacker, you need to be running at least one of these items. And I think the reason for that is they're the most efficient at providing attackers what they need, which is stats and some kind of useful effect if possible. That's really what attackers value, because at the end of the day, you're the backbone of your team's damage. Your goal in fight should be to output DPS as efficiently as possible and live as long as you can to keep damaging and hopefully killing as many enemy Pokemon as possible. And these items all do that, so we'll talk about them. First up is Excel Bracer and Drive Lens. These are my personal favorites. They do the same thing, so I'll just read Excel Bracers. So you get some attack or some special attack. I think it's more special attack on this one, obviously, because that's always a special attack scales. And the same cooldown reduction, 4.5%. And then upon making an assist or knocking out a Pokemon from the opposing team, increases attack by 0.6%. I'm just going to read the tier 3 of all the items. Until the end of battle, up to 26, maximum 12%. In other words, if you get this item fully stacked, which is your goal when you're running it, you will have 12% extra attack or special attack, whatever your stat is. And on most of these guys, again, we'll just look at stats. This is all the attackers in the game. Most of these guys, like special attackers, crazy numbers, crazy numbers. Look at this. Look at these guys. 12% is, like for Delphox, 12%, that's, what is that, 70? That's 84. That's huge. That is huge. You get some huge gains off percentage in the late game on your attackers, because your highest attack is your damage stat, or your highest stat is attack or special attack, whichever one. So percentage-based boosts are really, really nice. Oh, and cooldown reduction is obviously very, very useful on a lot of Pokemon. So I never mind having it, and there's only a few items that do have it, so, you know, it's nice to have. If you like to stack and want even more, then attack weight and special attack specs are your best options. So attack weight, you get 12 per stack. So it gives you 72 at full stacks plus the 18 at base. So it's 90 attack if you get it fully stacked, which is more than this is on most Pokemon. But you don't get the cooldown reduction. So it's a trade-off ultimately. If all you want is raw attack, then yes, fully stacking is the best on attackers. And the same, I'm not going to do all the math and special attack specs, but it's the same thing. You just get a 16 per stack instead of 12, and it's 24 at base. But point being, on both these items, in the late game, it is still going to be worth more to have the stacking item, but you don't have the cooldown reduction, and you have to gimp your early game by stacking. So really, truly, I think that it's less reliable in most cases, because on attackers, stacking is actually quite difficult in a lot of cases. But if you feel confident and you're able to, it does get you more. So I thought I would mention it. It is a very efficient item. And obviously, you can run both together. You could run these two and just be max damage and just crush people. And I've done that before, and it works out really well, actually. So that's not bad either. But again, you do have to stack, so just keep that in mind. And then the third core item is the curse items. Curse Bangle and Curse Specs. So when you deal damage to Pokemon, then their HP recovery effect is weakened by 30% for 1.5 seconds. And it's actually slightly longer if you do it with a auto attack. So these items are really valuable in any game where you are anticipating going against a healing lineup of any kind. This includes like defenders that want to heal themselves, like Goodra, or want to heal their teammates, like Umbreon with Wish. Supporters that want to heal, obviously, Clefable, stuff like that. Anytime you see anything like that, just think, all right, we need a curse. Probably 2 on the team in most cases. That's my sort of go-to anyway against healing lineups. But I think that you can get away with 1 if it's not necessarily needed, and you just want to have 1 sort of for comfort. Like, that's what I'll do in blind pick games if it's not draft. If we don't have a curse on the team, I'll just put 1 on. Because it's nice to have at least 1. You know, sometimes they do have a healing person. And if nothing else, it helps your laning stage, because on their gold pads, they're going to heal less. They're going to heal less from berries. They're going to heal less from potions, stuff like that, you know. So these items actually really help your lane, actually, which is really important. That's the other thing as well to consider with these items, is depending on the attacker you're picking, you may be stronger in early game, mid game, or late game. And if you're a late game Pokemon, stacking could make it very difficult to play effectively, because you're going to make your early game that's already difficult even harder. Common offenders of this one are Decidueye players. They love to stack, but it's very, very difficult on Decidueye because he's a very weak Pokemon in the early game, so I would never recommend stacking on him. I think my Decidueye build, if I remember correctly, is Floatstone, Muscle Band, and Excel Bracer. That's a Pokemon that cooldown reduction is great on, obviously. But anyway, those are the 6 core items. I would say run at least 1 of these every single game on whatever attacker you're playing. So if you're a physical attacker, obviously these are your options. If you're special, obviously these are your options. Curse, I will say curse items are better on Pokemon that have large area of effect abilities or damage over time abilities. So fire Pokemon like Chandelure and Delphox are really, really good with curse. And really, truly, at the end of the day, if you don't want to run one and your team already has one, you don't have to run one in most cases. Just running other items for more damage is better, because these don't give you scaling boosts. They just give you the base boosts from the item, like whatever the special attack and attack is. So these items will give you more in the long run. So you really do want to be getting these effects if you can. After the core items, there's a lot of other things down here that I've grouped in various ways. Let's start with the special attack items first. These are the easy ones. So these are the 3, I guess, flex slot attack items. If you just want to run... So I guess let me back up, maybe. Putting the cart before the horse here. So how many damage items should you run on an attacker, right? That's the question you have to ask yourself in a game. And ideally, if your team is situated properly, you want to run 3, right? That's the most damage you can deal. And you're your team's best damage dealer. The thing is, that dream does not always happen, right? A lot of times we get these teams where there's too many attackers, or there's no defender, or everyone's just picking random Pokemon, and we don't have any cohesion at all. Then it's like, okay, well now we have to make concessions. So that's where the defense items come in. So I guess I'll talk about defense items next. This is a good segue, and then I'll get back into these. I sort of teased those a little earlier, my bad. Little all over the place right now. It's been kind of a busy week, but you know, glad to be making videos, of course. Anyway, let's get into defense items next for a bit. I think this is the best defense item overall, Shell Bell. You could class it as an offense item, but I like to consider it defense because the HP healing effect it gives you increases your survivability, right? And the cooldown reduction is really nice as well. So you can get moves out more often and be able to proc the 8-second cooldown effect of Shell Bell constantly. Just to read that, so for everyone that doesn't know what that does, Shell Bell gives you 24 special attack, 4.5% cooldown reduction, and when hitting an opposing Pokemon with a move, recovers HP equal to 80 plus 60% special attack, 8-second cooldown. It's a really, really, really nice effect. So it doesn't sound like a lot, and when you look at the numbers itself, like when the effect procs, it's never a huge amount. But what makes it valuable is the fact that this is continually going throughout the entire game. So you're accumulating gradual bits of survivability that add up over time. I've done the math on a lot of my games, and actually games where I don't run Shell Bell versus where I do, I tend to live about 10 to 15% longer in Shell Bell games. And when you think about it, that actually does translate to damage output, because as you live longer, you deal more damage. Let's say you can deal 100,000 damage with 30,000 damage taken. Well, now if you take an extra 3,000 damage, you can deal an extra 10,000, right? So Shell Bell's a really strong item in that sense. I really, really like it. I think it's severely underrated. People see the healing effect like, oh, it's not that good, I don't like it. But you have to think long term. It's obviously not good if you keep dying because you can't make use of the accumulated value. So if you're really bad at the game, I guess don't use Shell Bell. But otherwise, I think it's definitely worth a try. And I mainly mean that as a joke. As I always like to say, I just want to reiterate again, whatever item build you like to run that item build. You know, this is just content to give you an idea of how to think about the game, how I think about the game, and maybe help you out in your own ways, you know? So if you have disagreements, let me know in the comments. That's cool. And do your own thing. And if that's winning you games, then that's ultimately what matters the most, you know? I mean, if you're trying to win games, then yeah, do what wins you games. And if running some weird build on your Pokemon wins you games for some reason, then congrats, man. Keep doing it. I don't know what to tell you. This is what I like to think of as like a systematic way of thinking, and I think it establishes good boundaries for the game. But anyway, tangents over. Back to defense items. Focus Band, I think, is the next best all-purpose defense item for attackers. Obviously, you're going to get bursted a lot, so you're very squishy. So having a way to heal up quickly when you're getting bursted is really nice. And it's especially nice on Pokemon, on mainly starters that have the Torrent, Blaze, Overgrow abilities. Obviously, all three of the Gen 1 starters this includes, but other ones as well. Because you'll be in that low HP threshold more often, because Focus Band will keep you there as you're healing up. You know, you'll take a little damage, you'll heal up, and it like keeps proccing and you're healing, and you're staying in that area, basically is what I'm trying to say. So you get the Overgrow effect for a lot longer. It's really, really good on those Pokemon. I really like it on Blastoise. Recently I've been playing it on Rapid Spin, Water Spout, Blastoise, and it's really, really fun there. Because you're chasing them down, as they're trying to knock you out, you start killing them faster. It's really fun. I think Resonant Guard is a really good item, so I'd be loath to leave it out of a video talking about held items. But I think it's at its worst on attackers, because as stated previously, most attackers have very low HP. So why does that make Resonant Guard bad? Let's find out. Resonant Guard gives you 450 HP and 18 HP recovery every 5 seconds. When damaging a Pokemon from the opposing team, grant the holder in one nearby ally with the lowest current HP a shield for 100 plus 6% of the holder's max HP for 3 seconds. 10-second cooldown. Additional Res Guard shields do not stack, but instead refresh the duration of the remaining shield effect. So basically, the size of the shield is largely dependent on your HP pool. So if you have a low HP pool, obviously it's not very good. That said, the 3 tanky attackers I mentioned earlier, Miraidon, Sylveon, and Armarouge, I think it all works well on. Because also, as I mentioned in other videos, Resonance Guard works at its best on Pokemon that have large AoE abilities or damage over time abilities, similar to Curse items, because you want to continually proc damage to continually get whatever effect you're looking for. In this case, Resonance Guard proccing and giving you and a nearby ally a shield. So Miraidon obviously is pretty good, Sylveon that's good as well, and Armarouge that's good, because they're all doing those things. They're constantly doing damage, they want to be in the fray, they're going to be near their teammates ideally. And they are the tankiest attackers, so I would say any of them is definitely worth considering, but another attacker's probably not. And then the last 3 items, I'll just mention these briefly. I don't think they're really that good, but if the lineup is heavily physical, like 4 or 5 physical Pokemon, you could run Rocky Helmet instead of Focus Band, or same with Assault Vest for special lineups. But really, truly, you have to keep in mind that if their lineup is that heavy in one direction, you should probably be able to exploit like that. They might have a lot of weakness to special attacks, so okay, I'm a special attacker, I'll just run full damage and KO them faster, you know, I don't even want to run defense items. But if you do, those are considerable in those situations. I'll read them both real quick. Rocky Helmet, 270 HP, 51 defense. Upon receiving damage equal to 3% max HP or more from an opposing Pokemon in a single hit, which is really easy to do, by the way, that's most hits, deal 1.8% of the holder's max HP as attack-based damage to nearby opposing Pokemon. 0.6 second cooldown. So it's based on your own max HP, so again, it's really not going to be good on most attackers. But if you want to run a defense item and you think you're tanky enough for it, this can work. And Assault Vest has the same problem because it also scales with HP. Gives you 270 HP, 51 special defense. When not in combat for 5 seconds, grants a 20% max HP shield effect that nullifies special attack based damage until it is destroyed. So even this, if you're a really low HP attacker, it's not going to give you a very big shield. So honestly, I would say these items are very, very fringe, but are worth noting. And then Big Root, I think only really, I was looking at the list of Pokemon and trying to think of it. I think I could only come up with 3 Pokemon I would consider running this on. Well, I guess 4. Okay, let me get into it. Obviously, Venusaur is the biggest one because if you're running Petal Dance, Giga Drain, and if you have a Focus Band as well, and you can even run Potion, you're really based on healing to survive. So Big Root will help you out a lot, right? And the same is true for Sylveon with your ult and with Draining Kiss, so it's pretty good on Sylveon too. I think that, where is that little rascal? Where is he? Dragapult, where are you? Oh, I have it on special attackers still, my bad. There we go. Dragapult, I think you can consider running it because his boosteds heal him, so if you're running 2 attack speed items, then Big Root might be usable. But even there, Drain Crown might still be better, I don't know. And then Greninja with Water Shuriken, good, but again, you know, it's the same deal where I just don't know how good it can be on this Pokemon. I think mainly Venusaur and Sylveon are the best 2 for Big Root, but again, it's worth mentioning. I'll get into the offense items again, because I was talking about these before. So these are the 3, like, best in slot items aside from these. So if you're running 1 or 2 of these and then want to run one of these, that's usually a pretty good special attack set. It'll give you good damage, it'll make sure you're relevant at all points in the game, really useful stuff. Although I will say, I would usually prioritize Shell Bell over any of these items personally, but it's just my preference, might just be my playstyle. And if you like these items, then, you know, feel free to keep using them. They're all good items, I'm not saying they're worse than Shell Bell, just preference. I think Shell Bell does get more done in the long run, but these items are still good in their own right. Anyway, let me get into them. First, we have the Wise Glass. It's a very simple item, 39 special attack, and then 7% more special attack. It just gives you a bunch of special attack. Obviously, 7% isn't as good as the 12% from Drive Lens, which is why this is not a core item in my mind. However, that is still a lot of special attack on many special attackers. As we saw, a lot of them have 700, 800, 900 plus special attack in their higher levels. That's like 60, 50 free special attack off this item. It's not bad at all in the late game on these late game scalers. Next we have Slick Spoon. 210 HP, 30 special attack based damage dealt, ignores 15% of opposing Pokemon's special defense. So if the enemy team has several Pokemon that are really tanky against special attacks, this item can help you a ton. It's good against double defender lineups or multiple all-rounders. It's just a generally useful item against tankier Pokemon. I would say it's less useful against less tanky Pokemon, so like if they have speeds, mainly just speedsters, attackers, supporters, stuff like that, it might not be as good, but even against some supporters, it's still pretty good, so I don't know. It's not a bad item by any means. And then Choice Specs. Choice Specs gives 39 special attack, and then when damaging an opposing Pokemon with a move, deals 60 plus 40% special attack as additional damage to the first target hit, 8-second cooldown. So again, like Shell Bell, it's going to be good on Pokemon that can make use of that 8-second cooldown as frequently as possible. That is to say, as soon as it comes off cooldown, you hit someone with the damage boost, and then you keep dealing. Then you get the cooldown again, and then when it comes to cooldown, you hit someone again. You see what I mean? Like you keep profiting. That's what you want from these items. So I think if you're playing a Pokemon that can do that, it can be very strong. It's good burst damage. It does give less damage, less special attack overall than this does. And probably less damage against tanky Pokemon than Slick Spoon. But it's not bad by any means. Good burst damage on Pokemon like Rapidash, like Venusaur with Solar Beam. Very helpful in general. Let's get to the other, all the rest that I consider, like... Actually, I get these in the middle. Attack speed items, I kind of have in the middle because I think sometimes they're good on special attackers. If they're special attackers that care about attacking quickly. Like, for instance, Mewtwo Y... Raichu potentially, Ninetales if you're going the Aurora Veil build. There's a few. It's like not many, but case in point, sometimes you want to have special attack on or attack speed on a special attacker. So these items are just really useful. I think the best attack speed item is Muscle Band. Muscle Band reads attack plus 15, attack speed plus 7.5%. And then auto attacks deal 3% of opposing Pokemon's remaining HP as additional attack base damage. It only works with Pokemon for the opposing team, and damage is capped at 360. So against defenders, all-rounders in the late game, it's always going to add 360, which is pretty good on just adding that to your attacks. I think it's most other Pokemon, it's going to be some amount less than that, but still pretty chunky. It just helps you rip through fat Pokemon faster. But aside from that, I think that... How do I put it? I feel like the other special attack items, the boosts they give, are kind of unreliable in a way. I feel like Muscle Band is more reliable for the effect it has. But Rapid Fire Scarf does give more attack speed overall. So if all you care about is attack speed, Rapid Fire Scarf reads attack plus 12, attack speed 9%. Dealing auto attack damage to an opposing Pokemon adds 1 stat of a hidden buff for 3 seconds, up to 3 stacks. After the 3rd stack, increases auto attack speed by 25% for 5 seconds. So this is probably the best for just raw attack speed. I think it's less reliable than Muscle Band, but if their lineup's not really fat and you just want to attack really, really fast and like say Dragapult, Rapid Fire Scarf is really good. Also good on Pokemon like Dragonite with Outrage. Potentially good on Mewtwo as well, even though it didn't care about the attack component at all. Like I said, the attack speed is what you're there for, and that's really valuable. And then Rapid Fire Scarf, which actually is as good on special and physical Pokemon because it doesn't give either. Gives attack speed 7.5% and speed 150. Dealing auto attack damage to an opposing Pokemon adds 1 stat of a hidden buff up for 2 seconds, up to 3 stacks. So it's less good than the Rapid Fire Scarf so far. Taking non-movement, non-auto attack actions will reset the stat counter to 0. In other words, if you use an ability, all your stacks are gone. In other words, you don't get this boost unless you do 3 attacks without using a move. Rapid Fire Scarf, you can use moves. Choice Scarf, you can't. Anyway, after the 3rd attack, increases movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds. So if you care about moving really, really fast and staying on top of them, like say with a Flail Snorlax build, where you don't mind just wailing on your opponent for a while after you plus Flail, or Dragapult potentially, again, or Mewtwo even. Honestly, a lot of Pokemon don't mind that effect, but I think it is a lot less good than Rapid Fire Scarf, so do keep that in mind. That is it for the attack speed attack items, and now the rest are just general purpose for physical attackers, as I call them. We'll start with Weakness Policy, which even though it's listed in the defense items in game, I do consider it an offense item, and we'll get into why in a moment. Upon receiving so first HP 210, attack plus 15. Upon receiving damage, increases attack by 2.5% for 3 seconds, up to 4 times, maximum 10%. So, in a team fight, if you're getting hit a bunch, it's basically 10% attack. And as we talked about, percentage-based boosts are really, really nice. It's why Wise Losses is nice, even if it's only 7%. And this is 10%. Not to mention it gives you HP, so you actually tank not a much, but slightly better to get more hits. So, you know, I actually consider it an offense item. I think the percentage it gives makes it... It's not, again, likewise, it's not enough to make it a core item, but I'd still consider it very, very highly. Razor Claw, next, attack plus 15, crit rate plus 2.1%. For 3 seconds after using a move, the next auto attack to damage an opposing Pokemon deals 20 plus 50% attack as additional damage to the first target hit. If held by a melee Pokemon, also decreases the movement speed of the target by 30% for 1 second. 1.5 second cooldown. So this item, I'm just going to flat out say right now, you don't want to use it on ranged Pokemon. Only use it on melee Pokemon. You want that slow effect. It's a big part of how the item works. The cooldowns are really, really low, so if you're playing really aggressively with really low cooldowns, you can keep on top of people and keep them slowed down to where they can't escape. On attackers, that's not always as relevant. That usually sounds like more of an all-rounder thing, but I thought it was worth mentioning anyway because Greninja specifically can be melee, so the rest of the Pokemon it's not relevant on, but it is a funny edge case. And that was a bit of a spoiler teaser for my all-rounders held items guide I'm going to do next. That's my next guide video, letting you know now. Anyway, Scope Lens is next. 6% crit rate, 12% extra crit damage. Upon dealing critical hit with an auto attack, deals an additional hit of damage equal to 75% attack to 1 target, 1 second cooldown. That is a huge addition to the crit damage. Also, the crit hit damage modifier as well. Basically, Scope Lens is a really good crit build. But that's usually only good on fast attackers. So again, stuff like Dragapult, Decidueye can be good if you're right-clicking or auto-attacking. Mewtwo again, Venusaur potentially if you're playing Petal Dance. Although I think there'd be other stuff that's still better than that on Petal Dance. Yeah, don't run Scope Dance, but what am I saying? Anyway, that is all for the offense items. These are the only items to run it. Like I said, the core items, you want at least one every game. 2 is not bad if you want 2. Like if you're running Excel Bracer and you need a Curse Bangle, you could just run both of those and then run some other item like a defense or an offense item. And that's completely fine, you know? But sometimes you don't want defense, you want utility instead for something that your Pokemon or your team needs specifically. There are 4 items I've listed over here, and I'm going to talk about EXP Share first because it is the best item in the game. If your team does not have an Experience Share and you're solo queuing, just put an Experience Share on. I promise you, your win rate will go up by 10% by doing that alone. Reason being, your team is going to have levels. I did a whole video talking about Experience Share. That'll be linked at the end, so I'm not going to talk about it right now, but it's a complicated item. But it gives you a lot of experience, really good item. Gives your team a lot of experience, it helps your team out. You'll level up slower, but your team will get more levels overall. And so you'll win more team fights, and so you'll catch up in levels and actually be where you would have been anyway, if that makes sense. Anyway, the other 3 items worth considering, I think, are first Energy Amp. Energy rate, plus 6%. This is your Unite move. Full Interaction, 4.5%. When you use your Unite move, increases damage dealt by 21% for 4 seconds, 15-second cooldown. Note, certain Unite moves have unique interactions with this held item. Mainly it's stuff like Blazikins, where you actually Energy Amp actually does nothing on Blaziken. But on most Pokemon that are attackers, I believe it works the way you would think it would. Notably, I think it's best on Dragapult because your ability to carry 2 Unite moves means that you can play around the relatively low 15-second cooldown of a 21% damage boost. So you can use a 1 charge early in a fight, get that boost, back off a little bit, and then use the other one, you know what I mean? So it's actually not bad damage boost for Pokemon that use their Unite moves a lot, or like to, or just want the cooldown direction. I think it's really good on Latios and Latios, potentially even. In any case, the other items are both of the movement speed items. That is Float Stone, attack plus 24, speed plus 150. When not in combat for 5 seconds, increase movement speed by 20%. Basically, the map is a lot bigger than it used to be, or rather, there's a lot more to do on the map, so the relative space you need to travel is a lot further. So getting around fast is really important, and if your team's sucking a lot of farming, especially if you're experienced, Float Stone can help make sure that you get where you need to be when you need to be there. It does gimp your damage a little bit because it only gives 24 attacks, so unless you're an attacker, you're actually getting no damage from this. But it's still very useful in some Pokemon, so do keep that in mind. And then Charging Charm. Attack 15, speed 120. Charges energy through movement, so you go up to 100 energy, and then when energy is full, damage an opposing Pokemon deals... Oh, equal to... Sorry, my mind is boggling reading this thing right now. 40 plus 100% attack as additional damage to the first target hit, consuming the charge energy. I like skipped some lines, so I threw myself off. My bad. Basically, you charge up through moving around, and then when you have 100 charge, you deal 70% attack as damage, which is actually a pretty substantial hit. The problem is, not a lot of Pokemon want to be running around constantly. I think it's mainly good on attackers that want to reposition frequently in team fights. So stuff like Decidueye, stuff like Duraludon, stuff like Latios. No, not Latios. Honestly, there's not very many Pokemon that would run it, but I would say Dragapult, and basically any physical attackers can consider it, but it's not the best, but I thought it was worth mentioning because it also gives movement speed, and not many things do. So those are your options if you want to run faster. And yeah, I guess that's all the items I wanted to talk about. So that's the video. Wow, that went faster than I thought it would. Let me think if there's anything else I should say. Just to summarize, I think my general advice overall on all attackers is run as much damage as you can get away with. Your offense items are your bread and butter because you are your team's damage. So make sure you are going to deal good damage. I would say at least 2 of your slots should always be offense unless you're running XP share. And then you also have to run a defense or another utility item for some reason. But really, truly, you should always try to have at least 2 items from offense. And at least 1 core item. And then the rest just basically on whatever you think is useful for your Pokemon or your game state. Be willing to adapt as well. Don't get too stuck in your ideas of what's right. You know, if you've never tried an item before and you think it might be useful, then give it a shot. Experimenting can really help you learn more about the game even. That's how I figured out how good Shell Bell is and why I like it so much. Focus Band as well. And maybe Resident Guard is good on more attackers than I think. Who knows? But anyway, those are just my final musings. These items are really good. Run these items. Then you'll win games. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you're looking forward to new videos. I'm looking forward to making them. Like I said, next will probably be the All-Rounders video. Or All-Rounders Held Items video. I might upload some games between now and then, but that'll be the next guide video anyway. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all enjoy. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. I've got my Twitch linked in the description. You can follow me there as well. I play the game live and interact with chat. You can come join us and have some fun, you know, laugh at my misfortunes and my real games that happen to me. Or watch me do really, really good. Apparently, sometimes people like watching me do good, you know. I play a lot of Latias recently. Maybe you want to learn how to be good with Latias. Come watch me play. I can reference things from my guide because I made the guide. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Peace out, y'all.